Here at Paddy Power, we're the home of the Money Back Special, with some incredible offers every single week. Check out the website or app today. Terms and conditions apply. 18 plus begambleaware.org.
Hello, welcome back to the Football Postcast here on the Racing Post. An absolute pleasure to have you along once again. This is the best place for all of your football preview weekend action. Delighted to be able to welcome Mark Langdon and Dan Childs in the studio today, and Brian McDonald from Paddy Power. Gents, a fascinating week of football so far. What's been the standout game so far for you, Mark?
Well, I suppose really, if we go back 7 days, or almost 7 days, the Manchester derby.
Yeah.
You know, United playing really well. You can beat City, and many teams have, I suppose. Usually, it involves quite a bit of luck and a harem, scarem sort of hour, but actually,
convincing, wasn't it?
It was the first half, particularly. I mean, second half they had to defend, but that's pretty normal, really. I think when you're 2-0 up or away from home, I thought they saw it out reasonably comfortably. It wasn't like De Gea's made sort of 20 saves or whatever. Really, really good performance. And then I suppose in the Champions League, Liverpool, it was a tricky little game for them in Salzburg, and first half you wasn't quite sure which way it was going to go. Alisson made some really big saves, but as has often been the case, the big players really stepped up. Mane assist for the first goal, Salah brilliant goal for the second one, and sort of that Liverpool bandwagon just rolls on.
Definitely. Where's your head at the moment, Dan, with Manchester United? Because it's been a really positive week for them, hasn't it?
Yeah, I agree. I think it was more of a positive for them than a negative in terms of Manchester City. Looking at that side of it, City's game after that against Dynamo Zagreb, it looked a tough game going into it, and you're assessing the performance against Man United a little bit on that, and the way they handled that and scored some great goals. It kind of reminded you a little bit. It gave me even more respect for the job that Man United did at the Etihad against It reminds you what a high quality side City still are.
Yeah, definitely. And Brian, another team that's turned it around slightly. A brilliant win for Everton last week, wasn't it?
Yeah, huge win for them. I think the writing was on the wall, obviously, for Marco Silva when they were playing Liverpool a couple of days before. That performance, I didn't think was the worst performance, but you can see just the lift that Duncan Ferguson brought to the side. They were very impressive against Chelsea, and we're going to see who gets the job. Emery is being linked, Ancelotti's being linked as well, but I'd say Duncan Ferguson, if Everton have a good result again at the weekend, he'll want that job for the end of the season at least.
For sure, and there's a certain feel-good factor back at Everton now, isn't there?
There is, yeah. I mean, I think Ferguson, Big Dunk and that Goodison crowd, Chelsea probably thinking, why us? It was the wrong time to be going, to Goodison. I think what that performance did was it bought the Everton ball time in that they haven't got to make a rash decision. They can think about who is the best person for the job, Moyes is among the favourites. I mean, I can't believe Ferguson would do that much worse job than David Moyes. So really, if we're thinking, Everton don't need somebody, I don't think, to appoint until the end of the season. You can, give it Giggsy. They can give it Ferguson now until the right man becomes available, whether that's Unai Emery, whether that's Ancelotti. I've been critical of both of those managers in the past, but that was when they was managing right elite clubs. I think that they'd be smart appointments if Everton could get them. But a really good performance from them, and an unlucky time for Chelsea to go to Goodison.
For sure, Dan. I want to quickly dip into the Championship. Some brilliant tipping through the week in Racing Post Sport. Please do pick up the Racing Post Sport. Do you see the top two in the Championship changing? Because it seems like they're just miles ahead of everyone else at the moment.
And everybody always says about the Championship that it's such a tight league, unpredictable. You've got to look at what you're seeing in front of you. And Leeds, even last season, I think were a very, very good side. Probably should have gone up last season, and they've taken it up another notch this season. Their squad looks deeper in my eyes. I think, and I can't see. I think they're the better footballing side than West Brom, but West Brom are going to have just as much a chance, I think, of winning the title, because if anything, they've got more match winners in the final third. I mean, Matthias Pereira is a top assist maker and looks sheer class. In the division. Grady Diangana looks a great acquisition as well. Matt Phillips was injured a lot last season. He's playing a much more important role for him this season. And I think the performance at Wigan, they were poor actually midweek, but he rested Pereira, Robson, Kanu and Diangana for the game at Wigan. Maybe took Wigan a little bit too lightly, but I do see both teams. And the other side of it, what other teams can you see getting anywhere near to them? Fulham just seem to be slipping up all the time, don't look convincing in their performances. Nottingham Forest had a good run, but they've had a couple of major slip-ups recently, so I don't see anyone getting close to them, really.
No, agreed. Right, let's get into this weekend's action then. The first game is the Saturday midday fixture on BT Sport. It's Liverpool versus Watford with a kick-off time of 12:30. Brian, we'll start with you here for the prices. And how do you see this one going, mate?
Liverpool are 1-7. The draw is 6-1. And Watford are 14-1. I think it's going to be a comfortable afternoon for Liverpool. I think I heard Mark saying on the podcast a few weeks back that if the only reason you can oppose Liverpool is that they can't win every week, then he'd be happy to keep them on side for another week. So yeah, I don't think they'll have too much problems. It's hard to know what Watford are going to be like. Can they pick themselves up, or what Nigel Pearson has been working on during the week? They've only scored 1 goal in their last 4 games. They're struggling so much up top that they're in real danger of being sort of cut adrift at the bottom this side of Christmas. There's no worse place to go for an opening game other than Anfield. An important win that was for Liverpool during the week to keep the momentum going. Very impressive performance. Salah could have had a couple of goals before his unbelievable finish in the second half, and I think they'll want to sign off in style in the league before they head off to Qatar for the World Cup. So I think it's a comfortable afternoon in store for them. I think they can put a few past them. -2 on the handicap. I think for Liverpool it's around 6-4.
Sounds good, mate. Mark, I think we'll make this a weekly segment now and trying to find something that might make Liverpool slip up. Is there anything this week?
Not this week, no. I suppose the fact they had a tough game in Austria, but it was on Tuesday. I always think that kind of maybe the Wednesday, Saturday turnaround is that can be difficult, particularly if you're first up, as is the case here. I mean, the quirky thing is that Watford have had more clean sheets than Liverpool in the Premier League this season, which is a bonkers, sort of set of circumstances. But I mean, Liverpool have won 23 of their last 24 Premier League matches. They're unbeaten in 46 at Anfield as well in the Premier League. I think it'll be comfortable, and that Watford probably are playing better than results suggest, but their failings, particularly in the final third, are obvious. They've only scored 9 league goals. I was just going to go Liverpool, half-time, full-time on the double result market. A really difficult start, I think, this for Nigel Pearson.
Definitely. I must commend your notes as well. You've gone to the typed-up notes, right?
Yeah, I mean, the written handwriting ones just weren't doing it anymore. So I'm killing 2 birds, sticking it on the website, and also so you get to see my notes, my postcast notes on the website now under Premier League key stats.
Little plug. Dan, you've still got your handwritten notes. What have we got there for Liverpool, Watford?
Much as I want to see Watford do well. This is such a tough start for Pearson. I think that, the slight little bit of light is the fact that Liverpool have had a tough game midweek, and then they're going to the Club World Cup. Maybe just mentally they might not be as 100% on this game as they would be on a normal match, but I still see Liverpool winning. I think Watford, people often talk about a new manager making a difference. I think that the caretaker manager in this case has already made a difference. Hayden Mullins came in. They played well at Leicester in the 2-0 defeat there. I mean, the second goal was only scored, sort of one of the last minutes of injury time. He's changed the shape back to 4-2-3-1. They look a lot more comfortable for it. The Palace game, shot count was 13-3 in their favour. They didn't even concede a shot on target against Crystal Palace. So they are playing better, but the confidence is just not there. And when you're going to Liverpool, I think Pearson, first game, he would almost take a low-scoring defeat because they're building a little bit of confidence at the moment. He doesn't want that to get knocked out of the water. You remember when Flores came in, they drew 2-2 at Arsenal, played well, and then lost 8-0 at City the game after. Pearson's going to think, if we get a 2-0 defeat here, nice and solid, good, a committed performance, I'll take that. So that feeds into the tip. I'm going to say Liverpool to win and under 3.5 goals. I don't see Watford getting hammered here, but I think they'll lose.
Great stuff, Dan. Back in a moment, and we'll be going through all of the other weekend's games.
I'm Jose Mourinho. I know a thing or two about being special. English Manager of the Year 3 times, special. Winning the daily jackpot on Paddy Power games, not special.
Understood, Jose. Yes, someone wins an average £40,000 jackpot every single day. So if you win, don't think you're special. Daily Jackpots by Paddy Power Games. Jackpots must be awarded by 11 p.m. and vary from day to day. Jackpot is shared with other operators. Available on selected games. T's and C's at paddypower.com. 18 plus BeGambleAware.org.
Hello and welcome back to the Football Postcast here on the Racing Post. Myself, Jack Reeve, Mark Langdon and Dan Charles from the Racing Post join me in the studio, and it's Brian McDonald from Paddy Power on the line. Brian, we'll start with Burnley versus Newcastle. It's the first of the 3 o'clock Saturday games on the list. It's been a very positive few weeks for Steve Bruce and Newcastle, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. 2 big wins for them over Southampton and Sheffield United. But I think that they might have been lucky to get 6 points from those 2 games. They scored really with just both of their chances against Sheffield United and against Southampton. Their XG stats, they had 1.1 XG for, and they gave up 1.89 against. So the scoreline doesn't really reflect the whole game. Huge news coming out of Newcastle this week as well is that St. Maxim, their record signing, is out injured for a month, so he's going to be a huge loss for them. I think they might struggle to create chances without him. Burnley, there's a bit better news for them with Ashley Barnes coming back in, and despite their recent blip in form, I think Sean Dyche is a good manager not to have alarm bells ringing, and I think he can get this Burnley side going again. So I'm actually going to tip up Burnley to win at 10-11 here.
Mark, I was listening to a well-known phone-in the other week when I was driving home from Norwich, and there were a lot of very angry Burnley fans. You were quite sweet on them at the start of the season, weren't you? And I was getting a bit worried about you because you never usually are.
No,
but, it's been a bit of a downward spiral the last month or so.
Well, it has. I mean, really though, the only game that I think they maybe let themselves down a little bit was Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
When even then, it was a game they probably you should have got something out of. Yeah, the 5-0 was pretty harsh against Tottenham. I mean, Spurs scored some unbelievable goals against them, and I didn't go to the game, but someone was saying that like 2-0, it was getting a bit edgy in the crowd because Burnley were getting on top, and then Son scores that amazing goal, could win goal of the season. I'm going to go for a Burnley win as well. If you have a look at their games against teams in the bottom half of the table, they've won all 4 of them at home to 0. So when they're in their kind of level, they've done very well so far this season. Newcastle are bottom of the expected goals table, and I think that Sam Maximin is a big loss for them. The percentage of goals they're scoring from set pieces and defenders really high at the moment. Maybe it'll continue, but I don't think so.
Little defender, first goal scorer?
Well, yeah, I mean, you Fernandes and Clark have both been sort of getting on the end of things, haven't they? And, their stats for defenders is way out on top at the moment. Always makes you slightly concerned because it's not usually a great way to score your goals.
Definitely. Dan, what about you, mate?
I fancy Newcastle here. I think the price is too big. I think the way they set up, I agree Sam Maximin is a loss, but I think the way they set up is very similar to the way Palace play. And I fancy Palace when they went to Burnley, and Newcastle against Burnley, you got to defend well, especially at Turf Moor. And I think Newcastle are one of the better defensive teams in the Premier League. The Sheffield United game I watched, and it's one of them. You look at the stats after, and it don't look great, but having watched the game, you couldn't see Sheffield United scoring. Once they got in front, they just sat deep, and Burnley Sheffield United just rained balls and balls into the box, and they dealt with them comfortably. I mean, I think the key here is the first goal. If Newcastle get in front, I think they'll be very, very difficult to break down. Although the Sam Maximin loss is big, you look at they've got threat from set pieces, and Shelvey is on fire at the moment. He got scored in the last 3 games. Again, a little bit of class and quality that I don't think Burnley necessarily got in their team. So just at the prices, Newcastle for me.
Convincing arguments from all there. Brian, the next game is Chelsea versus Bournemouth. How are Paddy Power pricing this one up?
Chelsea are 2-9. The draw is 5-1, and Bournemouth are 10-1.
I'm not sure about you, mate, but I've been really disappointed with what I've seen from Bournemouth this season.
Yeah, they've been unlucky. They've had a lot of injuries to forward players. Stanislas, Josh King, David Brooks, Charlie Daniels. They've all been out injured for a few weeks now, and they've really struggled without them. They haven't been creating chances at all. They're sort of relying on speculative efforts. They've scored in 5 of their last 9 games, so I think they will struggle to score here again at the weekend. I think it's a good chance for Chelsea to get a clean sheet. They haven't had one since their 2-0 win over Palace, and although they do have defensive frailties, as I said, I don't see Bournemouth creating too much here. So I'm going to tip up Chelsea to win 0 here on Saturday.
Sounds good, Brian. Mark, what about you?
Chelsea -1 on the handicap. I mean, Bournemouth have got so many injuries at the moment. When Callum Wilson and Nathan Ake, both went off. I mean, that's your quality in both boxes against Liverpool. They've only won 1 of their last 11 games. They've lost each of their last 5. Comfortable Chelsea win.
Same for you, Dan?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go Chelsea, half-time, full-time, shade of odds on. I mean, you look at Chelsea, going well. They've got the boost of qualification now for the Champions League, and the Bournemouth situation. It's not just the numbers of injuries, it's the quality of them. I mean, Wilson Aki have been added to Brooks, Josh King, Steve Cook, I think, is an important defender for him as well. It's too much. Chelsea for me.
Okay, so next up is Leicester versus Norwich. Apologies, Brian is no longer with us. His Wi-Fi seemingly dropped out. So I will be reading the prices from now on. Leicester are 1-5 on. It's 11-2 the draw. Norwich 11-1. Mark, you're always on this panel saying Leicester are flying, but there's going to come a stage where they may become unstuck. Is it this weekend?
I don't think it is this weekend. No, sorry. Yeah, I know there's a bit of hope in your voice there.
It was,
but,
yeah.
No, I mean, even last week, I thought they played really well against Aston Villa, but El Ghazi missed an absolute sitter at 0-0. Vardy mishits a shot that could have gone anywhere. He ends up falling back for him to have another goal. It's kind of just going like that. You remember when Vardy missed a penalty against Brighton, it was retaken. It's just happening for Leicester at the moment. But now the confidence is there. They're absolutely flying. They've won their last 8. Vardy scored in each of his last 8. I think this will be routine. I'm going for a 2-0 Leicester win. Norwich have conceded exactly 2 in 5 of their 8 Premier League away trips this season.
Yeah, contrasting form here, isn't it, Dan?
It is, yeah. I do think Leicester are too short, actually, but you just feel if you oppose them, you end up with a value loser. I just think that I don't think they're as good at home as they are away. I think they're a better team than the old counter-attacking team that won the title, but they still do rely on the counter-attack. They've scored 21 goals away, 18 at home. Last 4 home games, 2-1 against Burnley, 2-0 against Arsenal, 2-1 against Everton, 2-0 against Watford. So they're not blowing teams away at home, and I think a similar thing could happen here. I think Norwich have improved a bit since the injury situation's cleared up. So I'll go Leicester and under 3.5 goals at shade of odds against.
Very good, yeah. Tough trip, that one, for the Canaries. And next up is Sheffield United against Aston Villa. Sheffield United 5-6, 13-5 on the draw. Villa at 3s. Mark, what are we thinking?
Both teams to score. The last sort of 2 meetings last season, there were 11 goals. All 4 of Sheffield United's defeats this season have come at Bramall Lane. So it's maybe a little feeling that they're actually quite awkward. Dan was talking about Leicester being better away. I'm not necessarily saying that Sheffield United are, but it's a bit of a quirky stat. All their defeats have come at home. Both teams have scored in 11 of Aston Villa's last 13 matches. They're okay in the final third in terms of that midfield quality. Obviously, Wesley's not doing particularly well. But yeah, I think this will be a high-scoring game.
There was a minor blip for Sheffield United, wasn't there? That defeat to Newcastle, that first half against Norwich, and then the second half against Norwich, they were back to their best.
They were, yeah. I mean, it was the 2 goals in 4 minutes is just such a lift for one side and a downer for Norwich. I think it just sucked the life out of Norwich. When you're down there, you've played well first half, and within 10 minutes of the second half, you're 2-1 down. So I just think I'm still not totally sold on Sheffield United in the last couple of weeks. I think there has been a bit of a drop-off, and I think Villa are a bit overpriced there. You look at Jack Grealish in great form at the moment, 2 goals in his last 3 games, including that wonder strike at Manchester United. Trezeguet's got 3 in 6. I just think this is going to be a close game. Sheffield United have lost half their games at home, so take a chance on Villa to win this one.
Villa go into Dan's tips. Next up is Southampton against West Ham. It's the 5:30 kickoff on Saturday. Southampton at 5-6, 11-4 the draw. West Ham 11-4 as well. Mark, we'll start to you.
Southampton are a team that are playing better than results suggest, but actually, when they're expected to win, they did beat Norwich, but it wasn't entirely convincing. I think we've seen enough times from them that they're not a team I put massive trust in. And West Ham are really, really not playing well at all now. There was a good opportunity to beat Arsenal. They were 1-0 up. Arsenal were stinking the place out, really, and they've still managed to lose that game 3-1. They've only won 1 of their last 10 matches. Southampton, both teams have scored in 10 of their last 11 matches. Danny Ings is playing really well for them. I'm just not sure about them at the back, and I think they give up too many sort of presentable opportunities. I was looking at both teams to score an over 2.5 goals, but probably the most tentative sort of bet that I would go for on this week's Postcast. I think it's a horrible game to call. Whoever loses, manager could be in massive trouble.
Yeah, West Ham will be disappointed not to at least get something against Arsenal, won't they, Dan?
They will, yeah. I mean, it is a tough game to call. I mean, the fact that Southampton, I mean, they're odds against and they're in the relegation zone. So to try and have faith in them winning any game, even though they're easy on the eye at the times and play good football, they've got the worst defensive record in the league. I mean, a lot of that's down to the 9 goals by Leicester, but they've not kept a clean sheet in 11 games. So there is a general problem, going on there. And West Ham, on the other side of the coin, have been dreadful as well. I mean, the game against Arsenal, kind of neither team turned up for sort of half an hour. Then West Ham got going, and then as soon as Arsenal, who had done absolutely nothing, equalised, all the belief just seemed to, melt away from West Ham, and they were dreadful last half hour. So it's not an easy game to call. Agree with Mark there. I'm going to go for a first scorer tip. Looked at Danny Ings, but the run that he's on, but 100 to 30, looks short enough. And then I looked at Moussa Djenepo, who was doing really, really well early in the season, then got his injury. He's 9 to 1. He's started the last 2 games, so getting back to fitness looks a bit overpriced to me.
Love a first goal scorer tip. We're going to go for a quick break. Please do stick around, though. We'll get the boys' naps at the end, and they're on a good run. See you in a minute.
Everything is better when it's bigger. Paddy Power's Same Game Multi allows you to combine a number of selections from a single match into one big bet. Check out the Same Game Multi tab and get building your bet. Terms and conditions apply. 18+, begambleaware.org.
Welcome back to the Football Postcast with the Racing Post. Myself, Jack Reeve. Unfortunately, Brian is no longer with us on the call, but we do still have Mark Langdon and Dan Childs with us. Hopefully you don't kind of walk out at some point, and we're not relying on Wi-Fi connection with you boys. I don't think, anyway. Let's get on to Sunday's games. It's the 2 o'clock kickoff. Mark, we'll start with you. I suspect you're excited about this one. It's Wolves against Tottenham.
Yeah, I mean, you'd like to, I think, this one to be on TV at some stage. It's not a really interesting game. I think Wolves, a little bit overpriced here. I'd go draw no bet, because I think the draw is always, I think, a run. It feels like in Wolves games, they never seem to blow teams away, never seem to get hammered. So I do like to have whenever I tip on a Wolves game, it always does seem to be in the draw no bet market, really. But they're unbeaten in their last 11 Premier League games. They've scored in their last 15. So the opening weekend against Leicester, when they were a little bit unlucky not to win. There was a controversial handball goal that was ruled out. They're a team that's caused Manchester City problems. They were the better side at Arsenal. The fact that Jimenez is suspended is probably a boost for them in the Europa League. They've already qualified, so Nuno can pick whatever team he wants, really, against Besiktas. I think there's a good opportunity there. Tottenham haven't kept an away Premier League clean sheet. A lot of quality going forward. I'm not sure Mourinho's got the balance of the midfield nor the defence absolutely where he wants it at the moment. And when they went away, sort of in their 2 hard games so far, they were they were beaten pretty convincingly by Manchester United and then by Bayern Munich, albeit with a weakened side. So I think Wolves, as the outsiders here, probably give you a good run for your money.
I wasn't expecting that. If you look into back this game with Paddy Power, Wolves are at 11 to 5, 23 to 10 the draw. Spurs at 6 to 5. Do you agree, Dan? The Wolves look a bit of value here?
I think the draws the bet for me. A lot of draws in Wolves matches this season. I think Spurs they're not the finished article, but they are improving under Jose. I mean, three wins in 4 in the league. The 5-0 against Burnley has got to lift the confidence as well. I mean, not many of those players played against Bayern, so you can sort of take the confidence of that game into the next one. But Wolves have got to be respected. They haven't lost since mid-September, the 5-2 against Chelsea. I mean, they haven't lost in the league, shall I say, since then. They put out, I think in the EFL Cup at Villa, they put out, it wasn't even a second team really, it was a scratch side that lost that game. So, no, I think tight game, prices for me about right, draw's a huge runner, so back the draw.
Good stuff, mate. On to Manchester United, Everton, then it's Super Sunday, and it is actually super this Sunday. Manchester United versus Everton, 8 to 11 on Manchester United, 13 to 5 the draw. Everton you can get at 7 to 2 with Paddy Power. Mark, what are we thinking?
Manchester United, I think they're, I wouldn't say home bankers, but I feel like they're a very reasonable sort of price at home to an Everton team that have still lost 6 of their 8 Premier League away matches this season. United, for all the problems, and I still think there are some, they have beaten Chelsea and they've beaten Leicester and they've beaten Man City, they've beaten Tottenham, they've drawn with Liverpool. Yeah. It's not bad. And then their expected goals has had them sort of right up there in sort of not with the top 2, but sort of that next level of side for all of this season. I think Fred and McTominay are playing quite well together in midfield. There's a decent balance to the team. Rashford scoring goals. also think as well that Everton, we did mention it right at the top, just felt like it was like Ferguson got the crowd up, he got the players up.
Literally got the ball
Yeah,
boy.
literally got the ball boy up. I think, was it the most tackles they've made in a Premier League game this season? And
Any team, I think.
Yeah, of any team, and the most from Everton in a decade. So they were, they were bang up for the game. I just wonder if he can kind of stir that emotion again, or whether they'll kind of just slip back to being what we've seen of Everton this season. I thought Manchester United were fairly priced.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to this game, Dan, and an intriguing game that we've got coming up.
I'll go with Man United as well. I think they're a decent price here. I think the Goodison factor with Ferguson, it all sort of come together. You know, fans weren't happy with what was going on under the previous manager, and the crowd were up for the game, and the players responded to that. And you know, the fact that you can't really, you know, so the fact that it was the most tackles by any side in the league, you can't say that they've been underperforming massively before, because they've done well in comparison to every team, not in comparison to Everton. So I just don't see that. You can't carry on, you know, producing that week in, week out. It's a one-off kind of thing, away from home, without the backing. They've got a poor away record anyway, lost 6 of the last 7 away games. And Man United, I mean, their confidence must be through the roof after those 2 results. Weren't unlucky in either game. They probably deserved to get the 6 points. So no, why can't they carry on and win here?
Yeah, I was really interested to hear the thoughts of all of you listening at home as well. Please do tweet us at Racing Post Sport to let us know your thoughts on that intriguing encounter. Next up is Arsenal versus Manchester City. Arsenal at 5-1. The draw's 4-1. Manchester City at 2-5 on. Mark, this is a very tough game for Arsenal, isn't it?
It is. It's a really big game, I feel like, for Man City as well. The title race is probably over now. I mean, they're going to need a Devon Lock style sort of collapse from from Liverpool to get anywhere near. I still think that City's just, their class will see them through this game. I was looking at Man City to win.
It's a little short though.
No, yeah, but I was going to bump it up with over 2.5 goals as well. I mean, Arsenal haven't beaten a team who started the weekend in the top half of the table, and I think if Arsenal play like they did for the first hour against West Ham, they're not going to see Man City at all, because City are not West Ham, and they'll have absolutely put them to the sword. I mean, there is a vulnerability to City at the moment defensively, though, that I think it has gone on for long enough now to say it's a mini crisis there. I think big issue for me is that they can't control the counter attack. Fernandinho did a brilliant job of doing that. I don't think Rodri's done what he's supposed to be. He's still learning the Premier League, and he probably would have been taken out of the team, but for the fact Fernandinho's needed at the back. Over 2.5 goals landed in 14 of Man City's 16 Premier League games this season. They usually thump Arsenal. They've won the last 5. They scored a load of goals against them. I think Man City will probably win, and over 2.5, but probably not one for the Hackers, I wouldn't have thought. Arsenal's morale will be slightly boosted.
Yeah, they won't
I was considering Arsenal at the prices until I saw the Man City against Dynamo Zagreb, and that response, because you always worry about after a derby defeat how mentally that your team's going to be affected, but I thought it was such a good response, and not just winning the game the way they did, the fantastic goals they scored, confidence is going to be high again. Just reminds you, like I mentioned earlier, what a good team City still are, and again. At the prices, City looks short, but similar to Mark, I'm going to try and bump it up. I'll go City to win and both teams to score. Reasons for that, I can't see Arsenal's defence, for one, containing Manchester City. I mean, the defence still, for me, is unconvincing. I mean, Freddie Ljungberg's already tried, a couple of different combinations there. Started off, didn't he, with Mustafi, and he's left him out the side. Now he's left Luiz out the side. He looks like he's, trying to find the right combination. Frankly, I don't think it's there at the moment. I need to spend in January there. But going forward, they've got quality, as they showed in that 10-minute spell, 3 goals against West Ham, and they have scored in every home game this season. And City don't look great at the back, so Man City to win and both teams to score.
Lovely stuff. Monday Night Football then, this has the potential to get tasty. It's Crystal Palace against Brighton. Palace at 7-5, the draw's 21-10. Brighton at 15-8 with Paddy Power. Mark, what are we thinking?
Tricky game, a really tricky game. I thought the draw might be the way to go in this one. I mean, only Liverpool, Leicester and Man City have won at Selhurst Park this season. I'm never quite sure how Crystal Palace sort of managed to do it, but they do, and they barely sort of had a shot at Watford last week, but the defence held out, and I just think that 3 straight clean sheets pretty impressive defensively. They've had quite a few injuries during that time, but I think when they have the injuries, they kind of double down to make sure that they're solid, at the back and don't get beat, and then hope that Zaha, pulls a rabbit out of the hat. I do like Brighton, but I don't know if they win enough matches for me. There's not much in it in terms of the prices for this game, so they don't win enough for me to sort of consider backing them in this game. So I think it's going to be a feisty, it's a derby, isn't it? But not quite a derby. I'll go for a draw.
Last time I spoke to Bruce, Dan, he was getting rather giddy about Palace's season so far. Can you see them picking up all 3 points here?
I think the prices are about right, to be honest. I think the derby factor sometimes gets a little bit overlooked here as well, because although it's not a derby in terms of location, it is a fierce match, and I think feeding into that, often there's a feeling with both teams that you kind of don't want to lose a game. You kind of take I think where they are in the league, both teams might take a point, and also for the mental side of it, not losing the game. So. Palace, as we know, they don't score many goals. I watched them at Watford at the weekend. Very little threat apart from Zaha going forward, as is widely known, really. Brighton are the better football inside, but away from home, don't think they're a big enough price. Might be happy with a point.
Great stuff. Well, that's all the Premier League action covered. Some really tasty games in there this week. So best of luck with your bets if you're on any of them. Gents, any other fancies? Dan, we'll start with you. I know you've had some really nice EFL tips in the last few weeks. Are we going to stick down that route?
I'm going to. I've got one EFL and one European. The EFL one, it's Colchester in League 2 away to Scunthorpe. Colchester 8th in the league, just hovering outside those playoff places. Scunthorpe have been a terrible start. They've moved up to 14th, so they've improved. But Colchester got 10 points in the last 4 games, meeting Scunthorpe at a good time because of the suspensions. Scunthorpe haven't got a lot of central midfield players in the squad. It's an issue that Paul Hurst probably didn't get the recruitment quite right in the summer there, and he's got 2 of them out this weekend. Levi Sutton and Matt Lund are both banned, so there's a big hole there in midfield. Doubts over whether Jan Songo is going to be fit as well. He's missed a month anyway, so if he comes in, going to lack fitness. So Colchester, good side, good away from home as well, look value to me. The European one, I'm going to go for Schalke in the Bundesliga at home to Frankfurt. Just think that the fact that Frankfurt still needs something from the Europa League game against Guimarães, and although Guimarães are bottom, they haven't been kind of outplayed in any of their games. Watched a lot of the games in that group, so I don't think it's going to be an easy game for Frankfurt. So you've got the short turnaround. Schalke on the other side, they're 6 unbeaten at home, only a shade of odds on. They're 11 points better than at the same stage of last season when they were hovering kind of near the bottom end of the table. Frankfurt, in contrast, 1 point in the last 4 games in the Bundesliga, struggling at the moment. Take Schalke at a shade of odds on.
Are you a bit worried though, Dan, about Colchester got this trip to Manchester United in the week? Does that?
I think sometimes. Maybe some of the players could be looking ahead to that. Might not go through a few challenges the way they might do. But I don't think there was a massive drop off around. Looking back to the Spurs and the Palace games when they had, high-profile Premier League games as well. I think they focused, quite well around those games. So I'll take a chance they'll do the same again. Sounds like you're going to be tipping up Scunthorpe, are you?
No, I'm not. I was at Colchester versus Salford last Saturday. Not a classic. We can file it under that. Harry Pell nicked it for Colchester in injury time. Probably just about deserved the victory. Nothing really in Europe stood out for me really this week. So I'm heading to League 2, couple of games. Yeah, I mean Crewe to beat Mansfield. Mansfield almost to me seems to be priced up as if they're still this really good team, but in fact they've been terrible for most of this season. I can't see how John Dempsey can last too much longer. No shots on target last week in a heavy defeat to Cheltenham. And also thought in League 2 that Bradford don't always perform away from home, but there's no real reason why. I think they've got the best home record in the division, only won 3 times away from home, but probably heading to Leyton Orient at a good time. Orient just haven't sorted out their manager situation and have been in pretty iffy form of late, so that they would be my 2, outside of the Nats.
Sounds good. With that being said, we'll get on to the Naps right now.
This will not be beaten.
Well, we haven't got Brian to give his nap on camera, but we will get it, and this will be a Paddy Power treble enhanced price on their website later on. So, gents, just the 2 in the studio this week. What's your nap, Mark?
I'm Premier League this week. Manchester United. We have already spoken about the game, but yeah, Manchester United to beat Everton. United have done very well at home this season, beating a number of the kind of established elite, with Chelsea and Tottenham, particularly Tottenham. I mean, they really played well against Spurs, followed that up against Manchester City. This is also the only team in the Premier League to have taken points off of Liverpool this season. Maybe we've all been judging them a little bit harshly. I certainly think recent performances have been up to scratch, and Everton, generally away from home, have been really poor.
Dan?
Yeah, you've had a sneak preview of mine. Crewe against Mansfield in League Two. I just think Crewe, real good attacking side, a little bit like their reputation has been for years. 32 goals, second highest scorers in the league. So I've got a lot of love for Crewe. But last home game in the league, they won 5-0 out to Morecambe, so they're playing well. Mansfield, I mean,
what's happened to them?
Well, at the start of the season, well fancied. I thought they would go well, but
Back to the league.
They've it's going from bad to worse really. No winning 4, not even scored in the last 3 matches. The last game there was 3-0 defeat at home to Cheltenham. Crowd were absolutely furious with the performance. They're only 6 points off the bottom, which thankfully for them, you probably got to finish bottom to be relegated.
Not even that.
With Macclesfield. But I'm actually surprised. I mean, that John Dempster didn't go off the back of that game, but he looks like he's still talking actually this week about what he's going to do in the January transfer window.
And also the playoffs. He's saying we can win 17 matches in the second half. You've got to have a shot on goal first, mate.
I think they're living in cloud cuckoo land really there, and I don't understand. I know they've been backed a bit at the moment, but I still think the price, shade of odds on, is way too big.
Well, I like his optimism anyway.
Well, I mean, what else has he got? He gave us an interview at the start of the season, so we shouldn't slag him off too much. But Jesus Christ!
You won't be doing one at the
start. Well, my money's done on the Stags. Yeah, I'll back them.
Yeah, it's great stuff as always. Thanks so much for watching and tuning in at home. Dave Orton will be back for the Racing Postcast tomorrow to preview a brilliant weekend's racing. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you again next week.
Friends, or maybe more. Earn a 20 quid free bet for every friend you refer to Paddy Power, thanks to our Friends with Benefits programme. Log into your Paddy Power account and share your referral link to get started. Terms and conditions apply. 18+, begambleaware.org.